Good evening and welcome. Hey, it says we're live. You've been quieted. Hold on. What? Why are you?
Why have I been quieted?
Sorry if I busted anybody's eardrums. Yann is now loud.
Hello, everybody.
Oh wow! So in this week's, what are we on? We're on a toucan chat.
Canopy talk.
We've compromised.
So, all right. I am full of caffeine, and I think Mikey just had a nap. I'm not entirely sure.
Yes, because
hello, Render. Hello, Atomi.
So the good thing about
Hello,
when I've had any sort of rest is my voice can go really deep. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome.
Hello, I'm Mikey.
So if I need to do any orc sounds, now's the time to do it.
Awkward. That's right. I just did that.
He's not wrong.
Yes, we don't have an itinerary. We just, wanted to talk about what we've been working on, what we've got coming up, what we've been playing, what we've been thinking about, our favorite color, songs we've heard. I don't know.
All sorts of stuff. And we've got some exciting news on a couple of courses.
We do.
I don't know. Where should we start this evening again?
Hello, Gerard. Why don't you start with exciting news about a couple of courses?
Yeah, why not? So as you know, we've had now for a couple of weeks I've forgotten the name of the course. Paul's concepting in Critter course. So we've got a couple of the section lives. He's just finished the final section, which is on the character concepting. So that will be going out for our early access people, and that will be then launched properly next week. So that would be exciting.
Which is very exciting. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yes. And it's going to be the basis of a lot of the Blender courses as well, in terms of grabbing that as a starting point, i.e. the concept, and then pulling forward with that with the dungeons, the outside world, and also the character, which I'm really looking forward to.
I didn't know that. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like the courses have been planned to kind of fit together.
Well, no, I didn't realize that you're going to be pulling back from that and building from the concept. I mean, I know we're using the concept, but yeah, that's smart. I like that.
Yeah. And it's good because it's included details that I've completely missed when I was going ahead and doing sort of like the rough and ready version that we had before. So it's brilliant to have a starting point that makes more sense to me anyway.
Well, we have a habit of one of us to get really excited by something we've built, and something just sort of evolves from that, and we haven't planned it.
Yeah.
And then we go back and have the plan afterwards. So it's interesting to actually have a concept that we can then build from.
Yeah, that's very true. We often end up, I suppose, for want of a better description, like concepting live.
Yep. And hello, Munza or Munza. I'm not really sure which it is, so I'm going to say hello to both of you. And the one who isn't here, you can just have that hello next time.
Yeah, so up and coming, we have the concepting course. Yep. We've also got those who have been aware. There's been some additions to the Blender Creative Suite as well. So that is still expanding as we go. On that front, I was speaking to Aaron this morning about his geometry node stuff. Now, the course we've got at the moment was written in Blender 2.93. And unfortunately, they've revamped a load of stuff. Aaron put a little patch in the course to help people out with translation from the old stuff to the new. However, we're going to be remastering that course for everybody in version 3.3 the moment it becomes stable. So kind of like the same thing we're waiting for Godot 4 to become stable in its release, so they're not changing stuff and they're just fixing bugs. Aaron's going to record that and it'll come out. So we think that is at the end of this month is when Blender will actually make 3.3 a beta stable, and then it's just bug squashes. So look forward to that in July. It is June this month, isn't it? So
it is. That's which is weird. Like, it's really weird.
Yeah, June is caught up.
Like a week ago, I was in January.
Oh, I slept a really long time.
Good.
And yes, on the on sort of like furthering on from that, he's also going to put together another course, which is a more intermediate and advanced geometry node. So it becomes a nice package. It would be a separate course from that one. It won't be part of the Blender Creative Suite. It basically follows our idea of making the Blender Creative Suite a nice introduction to Blender, and then some more advanced courses stem from those particular ones. I could definitely see advanced courses coming for probably rigging and animation, because they are so deep in their scope, and some more advanced modeling as well. So we'll see how that goes towards the end of the year. But
that's very exciting.
Yeah, I really like it.
And we just had another Godot 4 Alpha drop, so we are now on Godot Alpha 9, which I played with briefly. I haven't played with fully yet, but apparently they've they've improved the OpenGL rendering, so we should test whether we're still getting the transparency bug on Windows.
Oh yes, that'd be fantastic. So for those who don't know, we were having an issue with our action RPG in Godot 4 when it suddenly ended up, from a Windows perspective, and it happened on multiple computers, so we're certain it wasn't just isolated to my machine, but all of the alpha particles would... It's almost like you could see the alphaing, and the layering was wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely got to sort that... well, not sort that out, but actually have a look.
Apparently I'm having bandwidth problems, because you're fuzzy on my screen, but I'm fuzzy on YouTube.
Yes.
I'm feeling very fuzzy.
You look fuzzy.
I feel fuzzy.
You should have probably had a nap instead of all that coffee.
I did have a nap, and then I had all that coffee.
Yes, as soon as I noticed your fuzziness, I just double-checked that nothing's chewing up my bandwidth, and I look fine my end.
No, my bandwidth seems to be pretty poor right now.
Well, yeah, well, if you do disappear or have to restart your internet...
Well, it just means if we want to show anything I've been working on, we'll have to do it from your side.
Very true. And you get to see me fumble around in Godot, which is always fun. Speaking of which, shall we have a look at some of the stuff you have been working on?
By all means. Would you like to fire it up, since I'm all blurry? I have been working on Battle Tactics. For those of you who are not aware, this is a game that we are putting together as an actual game rather than just a course. And then after it's released, we can do a sort of light version of that as a course rather than the full thing. Because the development process for a course is very different from a development process for a game. In a course, we'll be looking at what's the cleanest way to explain this concept, and give you the tools you need, get you started, and say, okay, here's how we do X, Y, and Z. Now make whatever you can from it, or expand upon it and make it yours. For a game, a lot of what you're doing is going back and making content, or tweaking content, or polishing content in a way that it really isn't useful from a learning journey. It's experience, but it's not a tutorial. It's not educational.
It's very true. When
BB Game Dev.
Hey, it's very true also with stuff in Blender. Often there's a really, really huge amount of repetition as you start making models. I mean, it's difficult to get across how repetitive some tasks can be, because we try our best during courses not to just do the same thing, because...
Well, it's like the accessories, right? If this was a course, we would make 1 or 2 accessories and say, here's how we make it. Or maybe 3 or 4 to show the process switching between them. Yeah. And then that's it. That's all we need to make, right? But our internal target is orders of magnitude larger than that. Yeah. Because if we're going to release this as a game, there has to be the content.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So let's... There we go.
I don't know what you're doing. So
I was trying to open up Godot, but because I use Steam for Godot, which can be a bad thing, by the way, if you're working on a project, and I'm not working on this project, so I've got it opening up with Steam, the same as you can have Blender open up with Steam, but then you've got no control. Well, you do have some control, but it can update in the background and potentially ruin something. And yeah. Try to focus.
So I have built quite a lot, actually done quite a lot of changes since we last saw this, which was a week ago. There's been bug changes. There's been a whole system rewrite. I've removed a major feature. I've added 2 new levels, I believe. No, 1 level. Was the
one of them was
then last Monday?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. I'm sure someone will tell us in
No,
chat.
it wasn't. Space was there. No, actually, I may have added 3 levels since you guys left. You know what? Mikey can show you.
Yes. So
But one of the things I've removed is local multiplayer. And the reason for that is getting the customization system to work for single player, online multiplayer, and local multiplayer is just a pain. Not because the actual back end is difficult, but how are you going to write the controls? So if it's single player or online multiplayer, it's fine. It's use your controller, use your keyboard, use your mouse. But if there's 1 to 4 people on the local thing, then that system now has to work with the keyboard, the controllers, but each one is doing a different thing. And then we get into problems like, do we have local and online multiplayer? So it's like, you know what? I know more people with multiple computers than I do who have a PC with multiple controllers. So let's just remove that for now. It's not difficult to add in if we need to.
It's a real challenge because they are two different paradigms of playing a game. And of course, you don't want to have to write 2 games. That'd be crazy.
I mean, it is a couch co-op feel, but these days most of that is online. Like, honestly, if you're doing actual couch co-op, you probably have a console.
Not coming to console anytime soon. I'm going to switch over.
As far as I'm aware.
Excellent.
I
So
exported it to Linux.
Can everybody still hear Yann? That's the important thing. So I've got Battle Tactics up, and you should be able to see what. No, you won't be able to see with the new system we've got. Right. So I've got the main menu up. Have we still got multiplayer working?
Multiplayer is working, yes.
Cool. So we can show people around, and then I can go back and we can actually play a game.
Temporarily remove. Well, I say temporarily. I've removed the IP and port stuff because if we're moving this onto Steam, that's going to be handled anyway. And you know, this is the new dressing room, finished yesterday, with one of the new pieces of content. It's the King. I'm not 100% on this one, but you know, we're keeping it for now. Mikey, would you like to take us through it?
So we've got these. Yeah, of course. So we've got our character over here on the left, so you can see what they look like from different angles. We were playing with a couple of different ways of showing what was going on. In fact, originally we had like our character, and they were rotating around, but it took the rotation. You couldn't have it go really quickly because it looked stupid, but you also couldn't have it going slowly because then you can't see the front of the character, or you see the back for too long.
Is it was non-intuitive. People would play it for the first time and not know what to do, and that's just not a great learning experience. There were all kinds of problems as well, like how do you communicate which one you're changing? So now we're using Godot's tab system.
Oh, I like just hitting random.
Random is fun. But we have multiple tabs at the top. I don't know if Mikey's showing it, because as I say, I'm seeing 20 seconds behind.
I was just hitting random there for a moment. So I've gone over to the accessory tab.
Okay. We've got some new accessories in. These aren't ordered. I need to spread these out a bit more. But the nice thing about this is it's an item list. So it will use vertical scroll bars if we need to. And there's lots of stuff we can do there.
Sorry, every time I see the snowman, it makes me chuckle.
The snowman was pretty good. I think since we've last played, we've added everything after space.
You've given a monocle to the top hat guy.
Yeah.
When did you do that?
Tuesday. I've also fixed shades and the Viking helmet, or the horn helmet.
Nice.
Not a Viking helmet.
Because this would make a very stupid helmet.
Yes. No one in history has ever actually had a helmet like that, as far as I know.
It's not the greatest thing having something on your head that will catch the sword as it's flying past.
Yep.
Hey, so we can go back and give ourselves a darker body. Toucan. Ah!
I mean, we had to put Tukey in there, right?
100%. I'm going to give him a red beak.
Other things we've added, at least in single player, is level selection. Now, it will still cycle through all the levels, but rather than doing it randomly, you could choose which one you start on. If you're playing online, currently, that doesn't happen. It just shuffles them and picks one.
So where should I start, Yann? To show off the disco
Have
level.
they seen the space station, the clouds, and the disco? I don't know if they've seen all three of those.
So I'll load
I
up
think we
that.
just started the space one last time.
Now, I've deliberately got the music of the game turned down, so nothing else, so I can hear Yann.
Hi.
And I don't know if I've got the desktop audio turned up. There we go. So you guys can hear what's going on. Better watch out. Toucan's coming.
I'm telling you what we need.
Yeah.
Mikey has this technique he uses because our NPCs, if they're hitting another character, they try and move away. But if in that time they're still hitting another character, they can get stuck. As Mikey likes to run up to them, count the fuse down, and then run away. So this level has a few things bigger, different from the others. It's bigger. It has non-grid bits. It has non-grid bits, which I'm
I win.
Decorating on this.
So we've also got the shrinking level working properly now as well. Now, for some reason, he couldn't pathfind out of there, but bugs, they still exist. Cloud level.
Yes, kind of. The layer of Dr. Overcute.
So visually, this is quite different. Not just the palette, but actually the
palette's the same. but yeah, it's highly saturated lighting. We've got this rainbow path everywhere. We've got Dr. Overcute and his hot air balloon. We've got these clouds.
And now on the disco level. They all died very quickly.
They did. This is the newest one, and has a lot of background detail in it, including these ridiculous dances.
I'm looking forward to adding I was singing along to this earlier as we were playing.
He was sort of. Oh, echo.
Echo?
Yeah, they can hear me twice.
They're so good. Hear him twice. Of course, desktop audio. I'll turn that back down then.
There we go.
No, he trapped me in while I wasn't looking.
I forgot what I was going to say, but this level was finished yesterday, and I've just been adding some more dances and stuff today.
We're onto the nighttime rooftop level.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're building up the amount of content. We've got 44 accessories at the moment. We've got 6 levels. There's a couple of AI problems I need to fix. The bug that Mikey saw, or that you guys saw, is actually because when the level shrinks, I remove those levels, those points immediately from the A star. And so if the NPC doesn't have a clear path, they can't pathfind out. So I might need to change the timing on that.
And this is actually the first level. I'm going to come back out into 3D view as well. I just wanted to show that we do have that top down. Some people might prefer it, but it only shows the board, of course, or the
or we might just have
space.
it as a mode. Oh. Who knows? Oops. Dropping things.
Uh-oh. Oh, I almost got pincered then.
So one of the things I like about this project is every time I add something and I ask Mikey for feedback, he spends 20 minutes playing the game, and then I have to remind him that this is about feedback.
You're only going to get pure feedback. Oh, no, that was a big bomb. So I think we've just cycled round. Oh, no, we've got this level as well. Do you want to log on and we show the multiplayer in action? Far more exciting with a human in there.
Give it a shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I say give it a shot. Like, I'm pretty sure it works.
Right, so I'll go back to the main menu.
My IP address hasn't changed since this morning.
Oh yeah, it did change this morning. So let's go ahead. I can join. You let me know when you're up and running.
I'm up and running. You should be able to see me.
You're in the changing room.
I am. No, don't want that one. Oh, you know what, John? Let's go with...
I love this. Okay, so we thought originally that perhaps having this customization wouldn't add too much to the game, but it genuinely does.
Ooh, I'm going luchador.
Okay. I'm going to pick that one, and I'm going to change my body color. What'll go well with that? Oh, yeah, I was already blue. There you go. I'll be bright blue. Done.
Nice.
So now Yann and I are connected together.
We are. And the countdown now works, so we can't start until both people have loaded in.
All of these little things that make a huge difference.
They really do. Here we go.
Standing by.
You don't seem to be moving on my side. You may have failed to load in.
I can see the screen. Oh, it says go. Oh, a bit of... Of course, your internet's being
My
funny.
internet's bad. Right.
Oh, you're passing through walls that don't exist. Ah, there's so many bombs on the screen.
What level are you on, Mikey?
I'm on the original level.
Okay, good.
But there were so many bombs on the screen for a second then. Someone's dressed exactly like me, though.
There's only you and me left right now.
I've got no doubt that I'm going to die at some point.
Yeah, latency seems to be trying to kill you.
Oh, I don't know. If I...
That's mine.
There's so many bombs on the screen.
Why would you put one there?
I don't know. I couldn't see what was going on. Okay, so lag makes a very interesting game.
Yes, and we're trying to... Oh, well, we have lowered the latency quite dramatically, but with my internet as it is right now, who knows? Oh, and we've still got the bug where if we're playing online, the host gets player one's customization.
Nice. Oh, I seem to be able to move straight away this time.
Yeah. Now, I'm a cowboy for no reason. Well, I'm in a Western outfit. And there's 3 people in Western outfits and a Spartan.
Oh, yeah. So it's been a popular skin.
This town ain't big enough for the 3 of us. Hey. Oh, I got caught by the wall. I've also had a thing that if all the players have died, the NPCs will randomly explode until there's only one person left. Because watching NPCs play for 3 minutes is less fun after the first time you do it.
Come back here. Oh, it feels like I picked up... Oh, he's killed himself.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. I think... Oh, the laser just came in at the very end.
It did.
Adding a human player to it makes a huge difference.
It does, unless I get myself killed right at the beginning.
And we're off.
So the annoying thing about this one player looking like the other player, if you're playing a multiplayer thing, in other words, I've got Mikey's skin for no reason, is I can only check it when we're playing together. I'm not sure what's causing the bug. It's like find the lady. Which one are you, Mikey?
Oh no! I was too focused on you. I didn't see the thing behind.
Meow.
So what's really interesting is when you're designing a multiplayer game, is the latency. I mean, how do you correct for that in this type of game? It is
so to keep the game flowing, I've got the movement, well, the yeah, the positions and the movement on UDP rather than TCP/IP.
Yeah.
So that means it's not guaranteed to arrive, and if it doesn't arrive, it'll just get ignored. However, it's going to be much faster. So the idea is, as long as the latency isn't bad, you're not going to drop too many packets and no one's going to notice. And just in case, we're going to lerp between the last known global transform. So if we drop
Which
a couple
is quite
of frames,
common
you're not
when
going
it
to see
comes
it.
to.
Right. However, if your internet is poop, you might just not move for 10 seconds.
Yeah, there was definitely lag in the first game and the last game, but this time round it doesn't feel as bad on the brightly coloured rainbow level. What's the level's name? Dr. Sparkles.
Dr. Overcute. Oops, I wasn't paying attention. It's too busy trying to find a way to you. I'm very proud of the castle in that level, but you can only see it when the camera goes the other way.
Yeah.
And we'll do a disco level, and then I think we can pop out because
So this is one of the more recent ones, and Yann's added a. If you don't pay attention to the board, but actually have a look at the.
Well, there's all kinds of stuff going on. There's the glitter ball, which was actually an interesting little challenge. There's the panels that light up as we walk on them and then fade out slowly. Oh, crap. There's the dancers. Nicely done.
I saw you putting one down. I'm like, why has he done that?
Because I thought all there, and I didn't realize till afterwards. I was like, oh no.
Mike's coming in.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting playing against Mike as well, because he's marginally better than me, but we're still close enough that it's exciting. Like, he's played games like this before, so we can give each other kind of a run for our money. And the NPCs really are there just to make up the numbers.
It's an interesting difference between this game and like Mag Racer, which was also you could connect to people and play, but the skill level required for Mag Racer was so.
Mag Racer was not multiplayer.
Oh yes, because of the speed we were going.
We tried, but
rubber band.
The latency at 300 kilometers per hour, missing 0.2 of a second, was actually pretty serious.
Yes, so 300 kilometers per hour divided by 60 for minutes, and then divided by 60 again. Yeah. Yeah. If you'd be out by 8 to 10 meters every time. Which is
right, which means you're trying to take these corners at incredible speeds, and you've gone through the corner. Like, you just couldn't do it.
Yeah. Because when you're running a multiplayer game, who controls the physics? If the physics is handled locally, then you can get a lot of desync issues, which don't make any sense. But if you have the physics calculated on a server and there's any sort of packet loss or ping problems, you just can't play the game.
Right. But what's interesting here is how much time we're spending on the... Yeah, this is Caboodle, by the way.
Cat!
Yeah, I know. My internet connection is really bad, Jelly. I've found myself spending a lot of time on polish, redoing accessories, making levels feel more alive. Now that the base gameplay is there, there's still some tweaks to be done with AI. There's still a couple more functionality issues with networking, specifically how you handle disconnections.
Yeah.
But normally I would say polish should be something you do at the end, but in this game, it really is the essential experience. Like, the character of each level, the character of each tactic is kind of the game.
Yeah, there are a few bugs with the AI that definitely need ironing out, just so they don't do silly things like walk into one another. It happens 1 in every 5 or 6 games where they will all kill themselves right at the very beginning of the game by doing something silly. Not to say that I haven't done that myself, so maybe it's a more human than we think.
I mean, I know why some of this stuff happens. Like, when they get stuck on each other, I know why. It's just fixing it is a little tricky. Show us your kitties. Well, Caboodle is running around the place very excited, and Cat is asleep. But yes, Cat and Caboodle. But I can show you my back.
I wasn't expecting that.
Boggle. No, my girlfriend's daughter got that for me, so it was very cute. It was a birthday present.
Toucan plushie when?
Now.
Ta-da!
I mean, we've actually talked about getting plushies before and putting up a store. The store thing isn't too difficult if we're using a third-party print-on-demand thing, but you can't get plushies made on demand. So we would have to find a company to design and make a plushie for us, and then order a few thousand of them and keep them in someone's house and then mail them. And that
I have a resounding no on having them in this house.
Well, they won't fit in my house. My house the size of your bathroom.
So that'll be a lot of toucans.
It will. But we would like to get plushies.
I think it would be awesome.
It'd be fun. So interesting things I've had to fight with today. Unexpected behavior with GUI design. That means if you have a viewport in a pop-up and you close the pop-up, the viewport disables handle local input whenever it's not visible, which is at the start of the level. So it'll just block you from clicking through it. And it took me about 2 hours to find out what was happening. And they just write a little piece of script that says, whenever you're invisible, just put that box back on for me, will you? And then it works fine.
The default behavior was screwing you over, basically.
I mean, I know what the tick box does. It just never occurred to me that it was being unchecked. Getting the glitter ball to work was fun.
Yeah. The holes in it for the lights.
So originally, I was like, how would you even do that? Like, I really don't want to get 48 or 64 or 128 spotlights and animate them. Like, that just feels really stupid. And in the end, I went into Blender and I made a sphere. And I made a bunch of tubes, and I did a Boolean intersection, and then I did another sphere and put it around it, and put them both in Godot.
Yep.
And then the one with the holes in it has no buckface culling and cast shadows. And we put an Omni Light right in the middle. And the one on the outside doesn't cast shadows and glitter ball.
It's a lovely little hack way of getting it sorted. It
doesn't look exactly like a glitter ball, but it looks good.
I like it. It adds to the level. You probably wouldn't want the sharp effect that often disco balls end up having on a level. But we did have an interesting discussion. It was either yesterday or the day before about not only UX but UI as well, and how we interface with something, what feels right and what feels right because it's something that we've already experienced versus what's good UI and what's good user experience when it comes to something completely new. And we were looking at all sorts of games to see how they handle accessories and everything else. Eventually, we did settle on having some tabs that you could switch between rather than trying to fit everything on one screen.
A brand new problem, by the way.
Yeah.
Because, okay, so you're making an interface, and a good interface should feel seamless, right? If you've played any kind of game, you use a computer, whatever your way of navigating should make sense. So if you're using a mouse, that's a button, you should click it. Right. So the second iteration of the changing room, of the dressing room, I put in these wheels. I thought I'm going to make this work with controller or your local thing. So if you have local multiplayer, everybody can use theirs, which means nobody has to use the mouse, because having 2 to 4 players on the same screen and having to pass the mouse around is just not a good experience.
You definitely don't want multiple mice on a computer.
And I thought, well, how do you know what you're doing? I know I'll put little arrows that highlight. And then everyone's like, the buttons don't work. And I was like, well, they're not buttons, but they should be. So I'll put them as buttons. And then all kinds of issues come in. So now let's make it feel a lot more like a document. Let's make it look like a comic book, right? That's kind of the inspiration here anyway. So let's run with it. And we can put tabs in and all the rest of it. And now we've got the issue with controllers again.
Mm-hmm.
So here is a controller, right? And I'm using the D-pad and the buttons to move around the thing. I'm not doing it right now because it's not open. And we've got tabs. Well, you can't easily using a tab container, select a tab with a controller. But that's okay. I've seen other games do this. I'll just put little buttons at the top. Fine, I could do that. And they work great. But now I need to tell them what buttons are around. So when I press down, if I'm on this top, go left on the tabs button, and I press down on my D-pad, where should it go?
Yeah.
Easy. I'll just do the first button inside the tab. I did all that, and then I realized, wait, that's going to that button no matter what tab is open.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go to another tab and then go down, yep, lost focus. It doesn't work anymore. So I'm going to have to write some script around that. That sounds all very convoluted. It is. I'm not expecting you to follow it. It was just showing you the kind of issues you run into when you think, I'll just redo the entire dressing room in a day.
Why not?
Not bad for a day's work, though.
Not bad indeed. And your internet seems much better now. You've come back into focus.
I have.
The caffeine has kicked in. Yann is back with us. So if you did want to try and show anything, we can do.
Sure, let's show the glitter ball because it was a fun little project. Actually, there's a couple of things I want to show. So let's
let me know when you got your screen ready.
Just fire it up now. Boop. Okay, let's see. Let's start with changing the customization screen. That's what I called it. Okay. So once again, we have multiple viewports going on. And to make this work, what I've done is I've got a little spatial node. And we have a single character, and we have 4 cameras. And then I've just got this nice little orthographic thing going on. We've got the front view, the side view, the back view. And it's not actually a 60-degree view, it's a 45-degree view. So I'm kind of cheating it. But it makes sense. It's almost like a mugshot or a montage sequence in a comic book. I want to put more of these panels in, but I want to do it in a way that it doesn't get in the way. And then we've got, well, I'll show you it running. I was trying to figure out what's the best way to show these colors. And at first I had little panels with albedos in them, but they're flat and they don't look right. And what I wanted was something that actually shows how it looks in the light. So we're using the same environment as the city daylight. We've got a single directional light going on. And I've got it on a transparent background with this little image that I made in GIMP. So how do we get that working? Well, the first thing I do is I know I've got 18 materials available to the player. I've got 30 in total in the game. I've got 18 visible to the player. So what I'll do is I will make, where'd you go? There we go. I'll make a color pivot. I'm just going to make a single mesh. And then, well, what I did was I created a pivot here, made a mesh as a child of it, rotated it by 20 degrees each time. And then I moved them all away from the pivots so that they're all here and they've inherited it. Yeah. Then I took the entire thing and rotated it by 30 degrees. So it's on an axis. Now, if I rotate this on its y-axis, that's local. So as it rotates, it's going to spin at an angle so you can see all the colors available and go there. There are downsides with this approach. Notably, there's no way of looping round currently. So when you try and loop round from color 17 to color 0, it'll do this. Whee!
So it does go to the next one, but in a animated way.
It does, but it goes, well, they're all animated, but it goes back. Right, we're using tweens to animate.
Yeah.
There's probably ways around it. I haven't figured it out yet. To get this working, I've got this 100 meters above the character and this 100 meters above the other one. And this is just an item list that's populated by whatever items are in the accessory manager. Okay, so that's all that. The glitter ball.
Ah, yes.
Okay. To get this working as metallic, I needed to have a sky in. So the disco level has a couple of interesting little cheats. We've got this outer ball. It doesn't cast a shadow, which is over here in geometry. Actually, this one does cast a shadow. Oh, it doesn't matter because it's the backface culling. There's no material feature.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No geometry. But then we have this on the inside. And this doesn't really matter if it has a color or not, but what does matter is under parameters, we have to, not under parameters, under, well, it needs to cast a shadow is the important part. So I've got that going there. It's got internal geometry, so it's going to block the light. And then we just need a single light inside. And as long as the shadows are turned on for the only light, it'll work fine. So when we look at it, here it is. And then we've got all these little details coming in here because I want to make this feel as alive as possible. So the DJ has a completely normal and professional dance that they do, which is completely normal and is fine.
Hopefully your stream doesn't stutter, otherwise we're going to end up with it looking like they're having a fit. I love that one.
I mean, it's kind of how they're dancing anyway. And the reason I put the DJ, well, having them still just made the whole thing feel very still. But we've got a second camera right here, and we're projecting to these to a viewport, which is being used as a viewport texture. So we have live video feed. I thought, well, if we're going to do that, let's have some dancers up here. It's Edna having a great old time. Let's have these two doing a two-step, because whenever I went to goth clubs and industrial clubs in my 20s, there are always people who'd have a handbag or a purse on the floor and do a two-step around it in the middle of a mosh pit. And like, this feels suicidal. We've got a single guy doing a pogo. We've got someone headbanging here, and we've got someone either chilling on a couch or feeling woozy. I haven't figured out which yet. We've also got this person over here tapping their feet. And our new shades looking very 80s.
That's awesome. It does.
I also played with the idea that maybe the panels should blow up. I thought, no, let's leave them on. They're kind of fun. And all of that comes together to give you a level that hopefully starts to feel more dynamic and alive. It has its own character. Things like the speakers are moving, and that's just a very simple animation that is messing with their scale. I don't know. Not really want to be a rhino. Yeah, we'll go with
the top hat. Love it.
And we'll open the disco. And as you can see, we've got this dude here doing a little whatever that is. We've got Edna having a nice little hula hoop dance. We've got this guy having a good old pogo. That was quick. And we got the speakers dancing. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on there. A lot of what was going on was behind the scenes. I'm coming out of my shared screen now.
Okay.
A lot of what was working on was behind the scenes. But yeah. Could you swap out the object with a copy that has a 30-degree rotation, then tween the rotation to... Yes, you could. I mean, that's... the other thing I could do is, rather than get the new rotation, just get the new edition of the rotation. And right now I'm tying the rotation with which number is selected. So get rotation degrees, divide by 20, that's your, and get the floor of that, that's your number. But what I could do is first apply the rotation and then get the number. How do you plan, scope the project, and decide when to stop adding features? I use Trello and speak with Mikey. Shall I show up this Trello board?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So we have actually got a Trello board for this. I don't think we've done anything to make it public or accessible as of yet.
Not yet. So what we do is, well, one of the conversations we had is what's our definition for fix? So once we've got Steam integration, and we've got the last few bugs for AI out the way, and we've got the last few bugs for multiplayer out the way, or the networking issues out the way. How do we know? And one of the things was, okay, let's get enough accessories and levels. We are now at 6 levels. I've got a few more planned. Some might make it in, some might not. We've got some other gameplay modes that I would like to work on, but they're really not as important. One of them is the ability to unlock. That is kind of a key issue here. Because I don't want you to just start with 200 or 150 or 100 accessories. That's overwhelming.
Yeah.
But the ability to unlock them by playing should be there. That's interesting. And the same with levels.
I am trying my best to get... I've been locked out of the Trello to show everybody, but should be there in a moment.
Shouldn't be.
No, as in it's logged me out and won't let me in.
Oh, I was sharing my screen, but okay.
Oh, okay. Even better. 3, 2, 1. There we go. And we're back.
Yay. Okay, so we still have a couple of major bugs. a multiplayer bug where player two's outfit is pushed onto the host. Haven't yet figured out why that is, but I can only do it when I'm playing online against someone else. Because if I do it locally, it's using my local data, and my local data is the same for both, so I'll never see it.
Yeah.
This is now fixed, so let's get rid of that. That got fixed yesterday. Boop. We have a couple of AI issues, one of which is they have a habit of placing a bomb, panicking, picking a random direction, and sealing themselves into a corner. They're not supposed to. That's the behavior for when they're touching somebody, but for some reason they're doing it on a bomb. So these two are connected. That has actually been redone, so I can now close that. And after that, it's just going through content. So basically, the way we plan it is we just come up with as many accessories and level ideas as we can and sit there and do it. Most of Mikey's job at the moment is feedback and suggestions and so on, because he's halfway through recording, of course, and he can't really spend the time to do it. But it's still very useful. And then there's all of these little things that I've done this week.
It's been incredibly.
Some of which were.
I was just going to say there with. To answer the question, how to know when to stop adding features, it's difficult.
Stop sharing.
Okay. Bim. There we go. So it can be very challenging, especially when you're deep in whatever you're doing when it comes to creating a game. It's very easy to get carried away or hyper focused on a specific issue or thing that you're working on and end up almost squirreling yourself and burying yourself in a hole when it comes to, let's say, you could go on and just end up creating a load of stuff. And what Yann's been doing is absolutely fantastic, because when he has a coding problem, he's able to step back from that and go and create a couple of assets. So the number of assets have really been almost like an escape.
But it's been really handy having Mikey as a sounding board, because I'll give an example from today, right? Today, we were talking about the fact that people keep saying tic-tac. They're not tic-tacs, they're tactics. I really don't want to get sued by a candy company, right? That's not what they're based on. It's not what they're meant to be. It's cute, but that's not what they are. So I thought, well, I said to Mikey, I know it's a lot of work. Is it worth redoing them so they don't look like capsule-shaped? They looked anthropomorphic, so like sackcloth characters, closer to like gang beasts or human fall flat. And Mikey was like, I mean, yeah, we can do that. And like, I'm aware we'll have to redo all animations, we'll have to redo all attachments, the entire attachment system will have to be rewritten.
Yeah.
And then what it boiled down to is this actually adding something? And we came up with the idea that actually the way they look is a huge part of the aesthetic of the game.
Yeah.
It's a selling point. It's part of the character. If we get rid of that, we've actually moved one of the fundamental things for no real reason. But if I was on my own, I might have wasted 6 hours or so making a character and rigging it and playing with the animations and comparing it and then stashing the whole thing and moving back. So having someone to bounce the ideas off really helps.
Yeah, and we've said this time and time again, one of the biggest boons with working together is the ability to bounce ideas quickly, because you've got someone who's available. Took-ticks.
What about trying Took-ticks? We did. That's why Toucan is one of the characters in there. I actually did try making a Toucan one in the same style as the tactics, and it just wasn't as interesting. The moment it loses that very generic primitive shape thing, it starts looking like a badly made toucan. So it's almost like Uncanny Valley, right? If it's just so simple, it's stylized, you can get away with all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But if it's just incompetently made, it looks bad.
And
an example of this would be the first level we made, right?
Yeah, totally.
Which was just done as a test. And it's fine, and the level's great, but the backgrounds just don't look as polished as everything else in the game.
And it makes a big difference.
Yep.
I mean, the moment that we decided, okay, so a great idea of, or a great way of scoping a project, we wanted to add a victory camera to whoever is victorious in the game. So originally you're just playing around on the game space, and then you win and your character goes, yay. But we thought, it'd be awesome if we could zoom into that. The moment you zoom into it, the illusion's broken. Suddenly, the
Yep.
bit that you've done with the camera, and because the camera swings around to the front of our character, we've got to make sure the 360 area around that character actually makes some sense. Otherwise, you swing round and it's just a void, and then the illusion's broken. Even though that it's not a realistic game, but the moment you break that immersiveness, it's very jarring.
Yeah, and it when I first made the very first prototype level, the idea was a fixed overhead camera and a fixed angled camera, because easy to make a nice little level that hints at being a city, but you don't have to spend all that time making content. And then in the disco, I've had to put in a ceiling.
Yeah.
Because I need the bright sky for the metallic stuff to work, but I need it to be bright. I need it to be dark. So there's a plane that you can only see when you're underneath. So when the camera goes down, the ceiling looks dark.
Yeah.
And I had to spend time getting the height right so that at no point we get this sliver of light coming in.
Yeah.
Tactics with an X, Void Ticks. I mean, we could change the name. Right now, I like Battle Tactics. I think what we might do is remove the dash, so it's just the word tactics.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Tactics. Yeah. Because on the one hand, it is quite funny to think of them as tic tacs, but they're not. Like, that's not what they are. That's not what they're based on, and it's not a great association from us from a legal point of view.
Yeah, I mean, it became a play on words because they are little capsule shaped things, but yeah, there's no deliberate association with the
right. It actually led to an interesting point where how close to existing characters or existing ideas or existing trademarks should the costume pieces get? So I made a cowl, and originally it was just a joke on I'm Yann. So I made little bat ears on the cowl. And it looked really good. And, you know, it's kind of over smoothed and stuff, but I was happy with it. And then after playing with it for a week, we're like, everyone who looks at it goes, Batman. We can't do it.
There's precedent for this as well. There's already been 2 game studios that have been sued by DC and Marvel because what were the 2 games? I can't remember what they were.
City of Heroes specifically.
And it enabled you as a what was it, Hulk? Everybody was making the Hulk because the character generator could make the Hulk. And you would think that, hang on a minute, we've given people a character generator and they're just making their favorite superheroes. How can we possibly be liable? Because we're not copying that. It's the players that are. But no, the game company got sued.
Yeah, and Marvel/DC had to sue them because if you don't protect your IP, you lose it. So
yes,
I mean, it seems to be in the public domain. So what we're trying to do is build icons or archetypes, but not specific characters.
Yeah, we had a look at specifically how many other fictional characters there are out there with a cowl that looks like Batman's, and the answer was 0, and it's likely
quite a few cowls. It's the pointy ears.
Yeah, the moment you put those pointy ears on, that's it. It's Batman.
So I went and removed them. Yeah. You know, I went back in and made a new one and smoothed it out and gave it ridges and stuff, so it looks fun. But it now looks closer to a generic superhero cowl. So do you have some kind of deadline for yourself?
Yeah, great question, BB.
No, not in terms of time. I want to get as much done as possible before Godot 4 beta comes out, because once beta comes out, I'm going to have to shift an awful lot of time to the 2 major Godot courses, so that once we're close to live release, we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Right? Specifically the ARPG and the big one for Godot that I shouldn't say until we've actually got that name registered on as a website.
Yeah.
How do you know it's good enough for release? Okay, that's an easy one. We have a couple of... So the AI is very simple. It's a state machine.
Yeah.
For a game like this, it doesn't need to be any better, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need goal-oriented action programming. It doesn't need behavior trees. It's just fast and simple because you just want something that looks like it's making quick decisions. And already there have been situations where people are playing the game and they're anthropomorphizing the AI.
I did it today before the stream.
Yeah. And in fact, it doesn't make decisions. It's just it's picking a point based on a criteria, a random point. It's going there, and if along the route it can drop a bomb, it'll do that and react accordingly. Like, it's not planning. But for this kind of game, that's fine. That's all you need.
It gives the right experience. That's the ultimate thing. And you genuinely make up stories as you're playing. Like, I can't believe he trapped me there. He didn't.
And that's what you're going for, right? You don't need it to pass a Turing test. You need it to feel like a person. But there's a couple of things it's doing that break that illusion. It's dropping a bomb and immediately going into a corner.
I've done
up
that
to another character. Yeah, but you don't do it every level.
No.
Every level, at least one character will do it.
Yeah.
It'll bump into another character and just get stuck there. Now, occasionally, Mikey and I do that to each other while we're playing chicken.
Yeah.
But we don't do it every time. And we can get out of there if someone comes up behind us. Once I've solved that area is good enough that is done.
Yeah.
In terms of content, each level needs to feel alive. It needs a few set pieces. So over time, something will happen. For example, in the lava level, the Villain Association headquarters, Roybot powers up after 30 seconds, and the laser powers up after 30 seconds. A few more things in there. Some of them might have hazards. We've got one level in particular that we're really looking forward to that's going to have some fun hazards with effectively cannons firing bombs into random points on the grid. You will see them coming. Like, it's not just like this person is dead. But
yeah.
Each level needs to have a certain degree of polish, right?
Yeah.
There shouldn't be any big gaps in the decoration that aren't supposed to be there. Like in the Villain HQ, I need to go around and add a bunch of things to stop it looking like a big red box. We have a range of levels that we consider to be good enough. We have a range of accessories that we consider to be good enough. So 10 to 20 levels is our sort of, that's enough for a small indie game. Right?
Yeah.
That's, for a game like this, it feels good.
And accessory wise, we're going for around the couple of hundred mark. And of course, there's nothing stopping you once you have released to release version 1.1 to everybody with 100 new accessories that people could wear and an extra level. So those are the sorts of things that can be added in. And until you get it out to that major audience, there's absolutely no way that you're going to capture every bug. So
no,
there is a mentality like, oh, I can't release this until it's perfect. And this is true of most things, unfortunately. We tend to if you're that sort of personality, you try and make something perfect. That's not always going to be something that's achievable. And if you're hunting for a bug, the best thing to do is to get many, many people to play it, because just one person playing for 5 minutes is not the same as 20 people playing for 5 minutes. That's a lot more data.
There's also the gameplay balance, right? You want as many people playing as possible to be able to give you that. I mean, we had this problem in Mag Racer, right? I spent weeks playing the game, building it, and I got pretty good. And for a while, nobody else could get around the course. And it never occurred to me that, I've spent weeks practicing floaty high-speed boats on a magnetic track.
It was lots of fun when you got the hang of it. Does this need a
difficulty level? Yeah, it was. Does this need a difficulty level, right? Because when my girlfriend's 8-year-old daughter plays it, it's much more challenging for her, which is fine. That's great. But maybe we want to slow down how fast the zone shrinks. I actually sped up how fast the zone shrinks because, in fact, the zone shrinking was added because once all the obstacles were cleared, you would have a 3-minute thing where people would just run around until somebody made a mistake. And that's
fine. I remember the conversation about that.
As the beginning.
It was a great conversation because Yann and I had gotten to a point where we could play the game very proficiently. We could just it'd be a stalemate situation essentially.
Well, you'd be playing the NPCs, right? And 2 of the NPCs were dead. There's 1 left, and you're just waiting for it to make a mistake.
Yeah.
And after a while, I was like, well, we need a way of keeping the tension that's there at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
Right? At the beginning of the game, there's some obstacles. You need to plan routes, decide what walls to remove. So maybe we shrink it down. And then it became, how fast do we shrink it down? Originally, it was 30 seconds, and we lowered it to 20. 15 felt kind of hectic, which is fine for Mikey and I. So maybe that's a difficulty setting.
Yeah. And it makes a huge difference as well, being able to being able to tweak those factors. As you're saying, with
And
a young person playing or an inexperienced person playing, you don't want the added tension of the level shrinking within a minute to its smallest size.
yeah, no, it's just not fun. The final thing that will let us know is this ready is to remove all those "it's good enough for now" elements.
Yes.
Right, all those elements that like, well, you can kind of work around it, or this bit doesn't work properly yet, or this doesn't behave quite the way you need it, but if you know how, it's fine. At the moment, that's fine. But the moment I can give this game to somebody and they can just play it and not notice the interface, and the level selection works great, and there's no weird bug where you lose your customization, that's when I know that's good. At that point, it's just put in more content.
Yeah, and there will be bugs.
Oh, and we need music.
Yes.
Like, we've got this one piece of music, which is CC0, so we can use it, and it's great, and I love it. But
it definitely feels like each of the levels now needs the music doesn't work in the disco scene or the rave scene or whatever you want to call it. And that
I mean, we need to decide if that's a disco or a club.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it looks like an EDM club. Sometimes it looks like the Electric Ballroom in Camden in London. Sometimes it looks like a 60s disco.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we should decide on those. And as the dances go on, it looks less and less like a disco, but
it is awesome though. My whole games.
Yeah, my whole games are usually good enough for now too, because typically I'll release like a quick little thing, and then I'll be like, oh, let's do a quick course on it. Zooblocks is a great example. I was traveling. I wanted to play a strategy game I remembered from years ago. I couldn't find it, so I wrote one. Right, and if it's just that, that's fine. Right, it's a little couple of minutes thing. But if you want to actually put this out there, you want to remove that good enough for now.
Well, I remember having the conversation with you with Zooblocks, and we had this. The good enough for now thing often ends up with the next step being a complete refactor and rewrite of everything to fit in the things that you didn't think about when it comes to other players playing. Things like a high score or some way of tracking something through. If you've not already put something in place for that, you either need brand new code or it could break your game fundamentally because you don't have a way of measuring it.
I mean, as it is, this is the third or fourth iteration of player customization.
Yeah.
I've had to go and rewrite them from scratch each time. Networking has been rewritten twice from scratch, just because you get to a point where, okay, that got me to this idea, but now it's easier just to pull it apart and start again.
And one of the things that we are going to be focusing on, for anybody who wasn't around last week, is releasing it and making it a Steam release. So we're actually going to be playing with some of the stuff's going to have to be rewritten again because it's going to be utilizing the Steam API. So
I was actually looking at the Steam API documentation today. They had a pre-compiled version of Godot, but there were some steps in there that were like, I missed this step. This isn't working, so the game wouldn't run. But it was nice to open up Godot and just do Steam dot, and there's all of the autocomplete there for the API stuff. Now I have to read the documentation and know what it does.
Yeah.
But then we're like, do we want to do achievements? I hate achievements, but they're kind of expected.
Yeah, and I think
now I have to track them.
I think it's the type of game where you're going to do achievements, and with the accessories that you've seen so far, part of the plan is they're not all going to be available. And when we do our again different game modes, perhaps as well that we've been thinking of, that some accessories are basically locked behind a certain game modes, so it encourages the play of the entire game.
Right. There's ideas of maybe a story mode for single player. Maybe. I mean, if there's a story mode, it's going to be very simplistic. But that's a way of unlocking levels, right? But maybe some people won't like that. So we'll see. But even things like achievements, like one of the ideas I had for achievement is to kill someone with a bomb or defeat someone with a bomb while you're at the maximum slowdown level.
There could be one killing.
But now I have to track that,
yes.
So I know to give you that.
If you kill two players with one bomb, two birds with one stone or whatever.
Any way of tracking that currently. Like I'd have to go back and rewrite them in. So yeah, it's
really interesting because once you start adding these things in, you're like, oh, what's it going to break? Are we going to be able to add those things in?
Yeah, this is the problem. People love achievements. Some even play just for them.
Yeah, 100% in your game.
But building a game and not including features because I find them annoying is a mistake. And a great example of this is matchmaking. I don't want to play with strangers. I find it stressful, right? If the chat's removed, it's not as bad, but even so, like, I just don't want to. I want to play with my friends. But everybody else on the planet is going to be like, I just want to find a match. Like, I don't want to go into my friends list. I want to see who's playing, jump into a public match. It's like, okay, fine, we'll do public matches. Now I have to write server code that's going to track all these, and people have to log in, and that's going to be massive.
Well, there is another example with AI. We opted to, yes, the game needs AI of some form in it, so it's a filler space. If you were to, we could make the game and without any AI, and it just be, well, if you don't have 4 friends, haha,
play with 2 people on the map. Yeah. It's fine.
But that's not quite the same feeling. And having those other characters there, and the AI, as dumb as it is, actually performs its job 90% of the time at the moment, and it adds that bit of tension because it will come in and just like what you saw this evening, it came in, dropped a bomb, and trapped Yann as I came in from the other side.
Yeah, and actually, even single player, it's nowhere near as challenging as multiplayer, but it's fine. It's a great way of unwinding. Like, I have midnight came around, and I sent a message to Michael going, "I can't believe it's midnight. I better go to bed." And half an hour later, he sent me one going, "Yeah, I should go to bed soon." And I sent him a screenshot of me playing Battle Tactics going, "Yeah, no, I'm totally going to bed. I am. I'm totally going to bed."
I saw the post on our Discord. I was like, he's not in bed yet.
Nope. So going back to the original question, how do you know when it's done? If
it's not.
You know. Well, it's not. Like, you're not going to get perfection. Perfectionism is I think it's actually diagnosed as a mental disorder these days. It's a really unhelpful thing. But there's a number of features in here right now that need to be done. Like, I'm not great at making a list and checking things down. The Trello helps, but it's not how I work. But I know AI, networking, more content, possibly put in matchmaking stuff, and that'll be it.
Jelly's quite right. Yep. Being in a game climbing trees at 1 a.m. Climbing trees.
It's a weird way to play Among Us.
No, that's awesome. Did you know we've gone well past the hour where we usually say we're going to finish? So that was good.
Yep, yeah, that's good.
But I am aware of the time, and so it's time to ask you guys whether or not you have any questions. Interpretive dances
or jingles.
Ask now. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun playing this game, and it very quickly became a game rather than just a test piece. Because ultimately, whenever you start playing around with a game mechanic, you're not going to make tons of assets for it. You want to know whether the core experience of moving something around is fun.
Yeah. I mean, I still have to check if I fixed the transatlantic latency problem. Because when I played with someone in Vancouver with my original netcode that didn't have any of that interpolation, everything was TCP/IP, the latency was like every frame, which meant that the whole game looked jerky, and it was just not as fun. So I need to check if I fix that.
Yeah, lots of things to check, and ultimately, when we're having Steam handle it, there's going to be a whole heap of bugs that will end up cropping up, I'm sure, or it might actually improve things a lot better.
And people angry because it's too much like Super Bomberman, or your tactics look stupid, or I wanted leaderboards, or there's going to be stuff like that.
Yeah, and all of that links into what we were talking about before with achievements and everything else. Tracking systems need to be put in place to handle those criteria. I can't see there being a leaderboard. That doesn't make sense for the type of game it is. But I could see, like, over how many games do you want to play? Oh, let's play 10 rounds, and there being a leaderboard at the end of that game. I could see that sort of thing being existing within the game itself. But not like a global. I mean,
one of the modes we talked about was teams, right? Like Red v Blue. And if you've got red v blue, then suddenly you could have like brackets, like not in game, but you could go out and organize a tournament by all means.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could do that with 4 people as well, but that becomes weirder. I'm not going to code that in. You could do that outside. That's fine. Are nodes really useful to make game assets? Yes, they are. So it depends on what you mean. But as an example, all of my attachments are loaded in under a position 3D node in the body called attachment, and it has a script.
Yeah.
It'll load in a spatial that has a script in it that handles coloring this accessory. And that node will then check for its direct children for any soft bodies and then any mesh instances. Now, mesh instances are a type of, soft body are a type of mesh instance, but soft bodies shouldn't have outlining, so they're handled a little differently. And then anything beyond that isn't handled by the script, but I can now put in animation players, I can put in particles, I can put in lights, and all kinds of other fun stuff if we want to. We could, once I figure out hinges, we could put those in too, and springs.
Yeah, we really want like a bobblehead on one of the characters. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. Nodes are hugely useful. I mean, embracing what Godot actually does, like the way it's structured, is massively helpful.
Well, then you're not fighting against the engine to try and do. You're actually using the engine how it's been designed to be used, which is brilliant.
Blender's geo nodes. That's a completely different thing.
So when it comes to making game assets, the answer is both yes and no. A great example, if you've taken our procedural weapons course, is, and I say it in the course, if you're going to do this and the idea is to generate 100, 200 assets from a subset of pieces, then yes, geometry nodes, assembling it and putting them together, absolutely fantastic. You could also take all of those pieces and put them together in Godot as well. There's no reason why you have to do it in Blender. But during the creation process and sort of like working out through these pieces all fit together, it's great to do it actually in the 3D package itself. Now, the downside of that is if you wanted 10 axes or 10 swords or whatever it happened to be, and you spent 4 hours doing the geometry node setup in order for that to work, in that 4 hours you could have probably also done 10 assets. So there's a real balance to be had with anything that's procedural generation, because ultimately you're putting yourself in a position where you've got a lot of upfront time cost in order to create the system that's going to create the assets for you. Now, if you when we get to the modular buildings in a course, I'm actually going to be using geometry nodes in a way of generating assets for that as well, and assembling buildings is the ultimate goal. Not just by picking pieces. I still need to go through. This isn't a promise, by the way. This is me actually exploring and telling you about my explorations. But I want to be in during the course, ideally, to actually say, well, let's put in sort of like pillars at random points, but those random points have to be discovered, and it needs to be placed. Like, you wouldn't want a pillar in the middle of a building because that would make no sense. It's geometry that's internal. So there's lots of things that I'm playing with at the moment in terms of creating a modular asset, but being able to then in an ideal world, let's say, start off with a cube, and if you've just got a cube, it makes a basic structure. But if you stretch the cube out, it makes a different structure based upon its size and shape. And one of the easiest things to do is to keep your model orthogonal, so you only ever have 90-degree corners, because it's easier to work out at that point which way a face is actually facing. And then you can build off of that, so you can create your own building, and then the assets get automatically added to that building to create a structure. That's what I'd like to get to with it, but I'm not sure about the concept, how scopy that would be, because what I don't want to do is end up in a position where it ends up being a 20-hour course, because it ends up being far more in depth than it actually needs to be.
In that book I got on procedural generation, name of which escapes me right now, but I've talked about it on the stream before. The first thing they say is that procedural generation is a really great way to break your game. And the whole first chapter is just based on why you should and shouldn't use procedural generation. Like, what's a good reason to use it? What's a bad reason to use it? And saving time is listed as a bad reason.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you don't save time. Now, yes, once the system is in place, you can create dozens, hundreds, thousands of assets, depending on parameters and what you're making and all the rest of it. Anything from plot lines to characters to weapons to whatever, right? But you do it because you want to create a bunch of things that you wouldn't have made by hand.
There's a great example in the weapons course where there's a sword handle and a whopping great big axe shoved right on top of it. And I would never have made that, and it looks absolutely hilarious. But
it's awesome. It'd be great as a joke weapon.
Yeah.
Like it's great. You do it because it adds something to the game. Right? It's not a shortcut. And the same is true of building with nodes, or the way you might handle accessories or whatever, right? You do it because it's right for your game. You want that random element. You want to create content that isn't repetitive. You want to create, whatever it is. But then you run into the problem of, like Mikey was saying, with figuring out the rules of where the pillars should and shouldn't go. Just making random stuff isn't good enough. Like procedural generation and node generation isn't about random. You can use random, but it's about creating the perfect set of rules for that experience. Which is why when Roderick says, I've spent dozens of hours automating tasks that take minutes, and with procedural generation especially, that's entirely possible.
So 2 points on that. I was also going to reach out to Roderick's comment there. So if you've taken some of the recent Blender courses that are focused on game asset production, there's always now going to be a little bit of Python in there. Because although it may seem that going to file, export, GLTF, OBJ, FBX, whatever your format is, and then doing that once is absolutely fine when you're producing one asset in a day. If you've got a load of assets that you want to export, literally spending the half an hour writing the script, or even an hour or 2 hours writing the script, the time it takes to actually export 100 items. Now, let's say Yann says to me, "Oh, Mike, could you do this to those objects?" Sure, no problem, because I've not got to spend 45 minutes exporting every single object again. That's seriously the amount of time you can spend. So there is time saving, but it has to be thought about before you actually approach it.
Automating stuff to save time makes sense, but what you're doing is you're building a structure.
Yeah.
And that structure could take you any amount of time, because once the bugs kick in, who knows? But once it's there, it makes the process easier. That's what you're going for.
Yeah. And it is really important to do the procedural generation in the right place. So as Yann was saying earlier, we primarily create courses. So I'm going to show you in Blender how to do it, and Yann's going to show you in Godot how to do it. If you were actually making a game and the procedural generation was going to take place in game, you would not do the procedural generation in Blender. You'd do it in the game engine. Whereas if we're just creating a load of assets for someone to use, then you'd use it just in Blender. Oh, equally with Godot being able to export to GLTF as well, you could feasibly do it in both engines once you've got the base assets made.
But that's the thing, right? In a course, we want to give you the tools and tell you what the advantages to each one are, so that in your situation you can make that decision.
100%. Knowing that you have options is key.
Cut it short, because I could keep going for another hour on procedural generation and all the rest of it, and I should eat.
Yes. Well, perhaps we should have a deep dive one day on procedural generation. Perhaps on the next Canopy.
Yeah, I mean, a great example of in our RPG course, right, when we've got the procedure generated mazes.
Yeah,
they don't have to be. We could just curate them, but knowing how to make procedure generated mazes adds the player not being able to predict what the thing's going to hold. And then it becomes making enough content and rules, algorithms, to make that interesting. So you're not seeing the same room 12 times. When you see this asset, you're not going to know what's in there. You want it to be familiar enough so you say, oh, this is a library or whatever it is, but not so familiar to say, it's a library. It's going to have this potion and this book and this many monsters. I'm going to skip it.
Yeah, definitely. At that point, it's not you're not achieving the goal you set out to achieve. You've actually just created the same thing and repeated it lots. That's not the same as having that proceduralness to it. Yeah. Yes, a great. That's it.
I mean, XKCD is worth reading anyway, so we should do that.
Yeah, the frequency of the task is it comes down to that. If you're doing it for a time saving measure, if you're scripting something or procedurally doing something, yeah, the frequency at which you do it. So exporting assets, making sure that all the settings are exactly the same every time. That's the other benefit, of course, that I didn't mention before.
Yeah.
The number of times I've exported a model to Yann and I've not ticked selected objects, so he gets the entire scene. It's like, Mike, this is helpful.
Or put the origin in the wrong place, or we haven't applied the transforms like every time.
Yeah. And you can script that sort of stuff and check and make sure.
And I'm
okay.
going through it now when I'm making these assets in Blender, and it's pretty simple. I have a little tactic in Blender. I could just, build around it, export the object. Oh no, I've exported the whole scene. Oh no, I didn't do the scales, or the origins of the every time.
Yeah. But I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Great questions, guys. Thanks for asking them. And yeah, I think it's time for us to go and enjoy our evenings. And I hope you enjoy yours too.
So thank you for joining us and for putting up with me being very blurry for quite a lot of this time.
I'm glad it cleared up.
Yeah, I am too.
Bye.
Bye. Press it.
See you guys later.
Yeah.